This is Lawrence Kazan Cassini in Florida, and it's a Friday, July the 9th, 2020, and we really are speeding through this year again, and this is actually what I want to talk about. So before I say that, my usual little introduction is that the slaughterhouse of failure is not in my destiny. And it's not in your destiny either. Persist. I will persist until I succeed. And that's the name of the game. So what I wanted to talk about today was life is about 2 dates and a dash. The day we're born and the day we die and the dash in between. It really is a dash. Goes by very, very, very quickly. We dash from our birth to our death. I'm being over dramatic, but it's true. And actually, life is like a roll of toilet paper. The quicker you get to the closer you get to the end, the quicker it goes. So the question I have for everybody is, how full is your dash? How satisfying is it? Because it's that defined space. How are you maximizing this time? Looking back, what would you have done differently? Looking forward, what are you going to do differently? Are you taking the time to introspect, retrospect, and plan? COVID has forced us to take a hard look at nearly everything in our lives. Among those things, time. You know, there's a little joke going around that in the people's curriculum or resumes, 2020 is blocked out because I wasn't there. It's just gone. We weren't there. But actually, we should be there, and we should really make the most of it. So why am I mentioning this? Because we actually have choices in life, but it takes courage and conviction to act. And that's why I invited Andrea, because we're going to hear something interesting today. So today I've got Andrea Sullivan, whom I've gotten to love, respect, through seeing her and witnessing her progress in the company. She's always been helpful. She walks her talk, which gives her integrity. And with integrity, you have credibility. Andrea is an example of this. She's always there, ready to help everybody, and a power of stability. So she started her professional life, as a dental hygienist. She hated that, but she had the courage to change the course of her life and follow her passion. Today, she's a very successful chiropractor and also successful in the business of preventive medicine where we are. So I'd like to welcome Andrea. Good morning. So pleased that you could join us today. I know it's very early for you. Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about where you are and what you're doing?
Lawrence, it's so great to see you. I'm just grinning ear to ear. Jim has given me a big smile. I saw Martin briefly before he went black there. And it's just wonderful to see and hear voices and all these people I've gotten to know and really respect and love over the years. So there are so many intangibles from this business, as you know, in addition to all the great things that we got from it. Or we have been getting from it. So I've been doing this business for about 12 or 13 years. And I have so much gratitude for Scott Bennett and Wes Blatter and my sponsors, Stephen Moore and Lawrence, and all these other great leaders, all these emerging leaders now that have, paved the way and made this a lot easier for me. Because at the beginning, we had nothing. We didn't have a system. We didn't have anything. We were just, we didn't even know what a carotenoid was. We didn't know a lot of things. But anyway, So Lawrence introduced me as the dental hygienist who hated being a dental hygienist. And my passion has always been prevention. Somewhere along the line, I knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but my focus was to help people stay healthy. And I thought hygiene would be a good way to go. It's preventive. You see people on a regular basis for their checkups and counsel them and guide them to make good habits. And surprise, surprise, people weren't willing to change. They just weren't willing, or there was a disconnect. Everybody had, it's like learned helplessness. Oh, it's just always like that. My gums always bleed. That's normal. Well, if I touched anywhere on your body and you started bleeding spontaneously, would you be concerned? Is that normal? Bleeding gums isn't normal. But I was hitting my head against a brick wall. I do have a point, and I will get to it momentarily. And so I decided I can't do this anymore. And I had heard good things about chiropractic, learned I could use chiropractic in a very preventive way. So I went back and was completing my pre-med for that. And I worked in a different kind of dental office that had a non-surgical treatment for gum disease. And basically, this is it. It was so simple. You took a sample of bacteria from under the gum, put it on a microscope slide, and the patient could see on a screen bacterial activity. It was gross. They would freak out seeing all this undulating bacteria on the screen in front of their face. And in that moment, I had motivation to change. And I would give them the same spiel I've been giving people for years, but this time they knew they were coming back in 2 weeks to get retested. And I saw a change, and I saw improved dental health and oral health. And that blew me away. So fast forward 20 years, I was at a big sports symposium in San Francisco, and Stephen Moore was presenting the scanner, one of the first times out there. And it got my attention because of the visual. People get that visual and it creates emotion, and that gives you behavior change. Now, who wants to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result? And this has been the thorn in our side in a lot of providers that are on the line here is nutrition. And how do we deal with that disconnect between what we put in our bodies and our health? And this was the perfect vehicle. So I jumped in, got a scanner on a wing and a prayer. Like I said, we didn't really have a system, but we started testing people. And that first year, I brought the scanner into our practice. I put more people on product than I had done, somewhat haphazardly, let's say, in the previous 18 years or 20 years. And at that time, but then my personal story gets a little even more interesting for me. But anyway, I had really wanted to move. I had this big overhead practice in the San Francisco Bay Area, a lot of insurance, a lot of brain damage. And every year you had to work a little harder to make the same amount of money. So I'm thinking, if I want to retire, I need to do something different. So I was thinking about moving, and I have a home in the mountains. This is where I am now. And it's, way up between Tahoe and Yosemite. I'm at 7,000 feet. We have snow 6 months of the year. It's a little extreme, I admit, but it's pretty sweet. It's pretty beautiful. And so I moved up here and started a practice in a small town down in the foothills. And that was kind of in the works when I started Pharmanex, but it was so cool. And I'm not a rocket scientist, by the way. It just was dumb luck that I left. I got the doctor that took over my practice and my former business partner. They continued to do the scanner in their practice. I started a new practice. I still had residuals for years on the money the people I put on product in the Bay Area. And now I got to have the time and the flexibility with that little bit of extra income at that point to start a new practice, to build a practice, to move to a new location and get things going again. And all these years that I've been building up a new practice, I've had Pharmanex, and it's been a tool to build my practice. And it's been a way to differentiate myself from other providers around. And now there are doctors in my area that send people to me to get tested, those that have not elected to get their own scanners. But, there's so many different ways you could do this business. And for me, I introduce it to colleagues. When I have time, I dig in and do a lot. And to tell you the truth, since COVID, it's been pretty dicey at the office. It could be really busy, really slow, really unpredictable, and a lot of extra sanitation and stuff. But I can relax a little bit in some aspects of life because I have Pharmanex. I continue to scan patients. Patients are not canceling their ADRs. I don't know about any of you other folks, but they know that this is not the time to stop taking their products that have been proven and tested and substantiated. So that's my 2 cents, Lawrence.
So, I always talk about the fact that the differentiator which we have in by having the scanner is that it is a visual, it's a visual impact that people have. Because if the doctor says to the patient, your cholesterol's 300, the patient says, oh, yay, is that good? No, it's terrible. But it's just a number. And they don't have anything really to equate with that. Whereas with the scanner, we've got a screen where the person can see where they should be and where they are. And by having somebody that, like you, who's professional and can explain that this is where ideally you should be, and this is where this is where most of the people are, it has an impact. So, your visual, what it prompted you to, what motivated you, that's, I think, what motivates a lot of people to think about their health a lot. So what you're saying, I agree with. It's important, and the visual part of it. The disconnect with health and food. This is something that also you mentioned that I think is important. Andrea, tell me how does your health play with your food and with your living up there in the Himalayas where you are? 6 months of the year, I can't even imagine that. But how does that all correlate with you? I said you walk your talk, it's about integrity. So as your lifestyle choices and how you are, how is all this affected and being influenced by what you're doing with Pharmanex?
Well, it's really interesting, Lawrence, that you asked that because, the first time I got scanned, I had my hand on that scanner, my chest was puffed up. I was sure I would have the highest score known to mankind, which I'm sure a lot of us have, good lifestyle, good diet, local organic food. For God's sakes, I lived in Berkeley. You should get like bonus points for living there. Everything's farm to table and all this great food available 12 months a year. I took good supplements, or so I thought, and I tested, pretty terrible. And so, of course, first thought that I know many of us have had, this must be a bogus device, but I was curious enough to do my due diligence, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, NIH grants, Nobel Prize winning science, I guess it ain't the machine. And that made me really look at some of the stressors in my life. It made me get on products that work for me. And I was very curious. I was sold on the scanner, but I wasn't sold on the Pharmanex line because everybody says their products are the best. I tried Pharmanex and my score went up, no surprise. But then I wanted to try other products. So I tested it against other, physician grade products, and very few things got my score up. And then that was the big wake up call. And well, the other piece too is once I saw that my score wasn't high, I was professionally obligated to use the scanner, because if people are asking me for advice and I have a pathetic score, how can I give them appropriate advice? One day I was working on a patient. This is an idea, and it was a wake up call too. He says, well, so Dr. So-and-so told me this, but why would I listen to him? He's this old fat guy. And I thought, patients are really looking at us. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we modeling? And so the scanner personally has improved my health a lot because it got me on products that actually work. And, then there's the whole age lock line. And I could do a little testimonial / stand-up comedy routine on a lot of the products because there's amazing products. And I've tried many of them over the years. I've put many patients on them, and people keep coming back and they want that same product. All probiotics are not created equal. No one in the world has the age-lock technology. I mean, once people start taking age-lock youth and feel the vascular benefits, the cognitive benefits, everything. It's, who would not want to take age-lock youth every day? Who would not take life back every single day? Once we know what those are and what they mean and how they impact our long-term health. So, I owe my health, my family's health. I could have a whole nother story about my mom when she had cancer. She's 92 and still kicking it. She's doing great. She takes products. Every once in a while, she tells me she's going to quit taking them because she doesn't want to live forever. But she's, doing wonderful. And I thank to the oncologist that I met through Pharmanex. We have such a wealth of knowledge and information among all these people, from the business side of things. I mean, you couldn't talk to a stronger business person than Stephen Moore or Scott Bennett or Wes Blatter. You couldn't talk to sharper doctors than Dr. David Feld, Louis Cady, Amy Matecki, and every single one of you that I've met over the years. Everybody's given me something, and I've learned something from every person. My goodness, who helped our mental health at the beginning of this? Louis Cady did free webinars. I hope you guys took advantage of them. I mean, really, he talked a lot of people off the ledge. And one small example. Anyway, I digress. Back to you, Lawrence.
No, in fact, you mentioned Dr. Louis Cady, and actually, just taking on that for a second, I asked him. He was on our Friday call a few weeks ago, and I asked him, why would a psychiatrist be interested in antioxidants? And he said, my dear fellow, go to pubmed.org and put in there Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, and next to it put antioxidants, and see how many papers there are. So, this is something that we can help absolutely every healthcare professional in whatever specialty they have. And this is something that we can visually help them with. So,
it's funny that you say that, if I can jump in for a sec, because, every once in a while we'll have a run on optometrists. They're doing great. They're killing it in the business. And then it's the podiatrists that are killing it. And, oh boy, let's try that. Now dentists are coming around, and because we get a couple of leaders in those fields. And when I go to the fly-in all the time, it's like going to a parallel universe of people that are all on the same page with health and prevention. And, I've been missing it sorely this year. This is the first year in 13 years that I haven't been to a fly-in since, November was the last one I went to. And, so people will always come up to me. So what do you think? Do you think how do you talk to podiatrists? What do you think about this or this provider? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the kind of provider. It matters if they think nutrition is important. And you know how you start talking to somebody and they start throwing up all these roadblocks, and they just keep them coming, and you start thinking, why am I even here? I just stop. I say, Doc, let's stop for a minute. Let's stop for a minute. There's only one question you need to answer. Is nutrition important to you personally? And if it isn't, or if they have to think about it, move on, because they're not there yet.
You've just said something that resonates a lot when we say that periodically we have people that suddenly, it's dentists or optometrists or any particular specialty, and it's leadership. Where, for example, we look and we say, just think about it. 60% of the US population is overweight. 60%, 30% morbidly obese. So what are the ramifications of some of those things, which diabetes, for example? That's a pandemic in the US. It's a pandemic. What are the ramifications? We start going blind, or it affects your eyesight. So optometrists, ophthalmologists, of course we should be focusing on them. You know, then we had some really good speakers at the event. The dentists, for example. We talk about dentists. Why is bone health important? Because when they put into your jaw something, if your bones are not strong, you got a problem. So when whatever the specialty is, all we need is the leader, like yourself, to be able to forge the way and say, this is important because of what I've researched, because of what I believe, and what this really does. And nutrition, in our case, is the underlying factor of cardiovascular, hypertension, diabetes type 2, lots of cancers. The common denominator is food.
Sage, quit it. Sorry, the dog's bark.
I thought you'd probably call it mimosa or something. Sage, okay, it's a herb, an herb. So would you agree with that?
Yes, I know, you're absolutely right. And leadership, and here we go, is what another thing I've learned. I've learned how to be a leader, you know, and people think, oh, you're a doctor, you know all this stuff. What are you gonna, why do you keep going to the fly-ins? People will ask me, why are you going out there again? Because I learn something new every time. And the big thing that I learn is leadership, is, you know, how to motivate, how to guide, how to help people. And it's pretty sweet. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Lawrence, for giving me this pick-me-up Friday morning.
No, you're actually giving us all a pick-me-up. Thank you. So I have a question for you. So a couple more. So what are the challenges you have still now as a chiropractor? What is, and in your professional life with the people you deal with, what is one of the biggest challenges you have?
Inflammation. It's all about inflammation. You know, people don't heal as fast as they used to, and they don't have the building blocks. That, you know, nutritionally, if we don't have those micronutrients, we don't have the building blocks to renew cells. Our cells turn over every single day, and we've got to have all those trace minerals and micronutrients. They're not in our food anymore. You look at some of the statistics, and I have to thank like Dr. David Rosenberg, Dr. Katie, some of the slides that they've shown us and studies that they've called to my attention really drive it home. And I just have a couple of slides on my iPad that I show a patient when they say, why can't I get this from my diet? And as John Whitaker, another wonderful mentor of mine, said, when patients say, why can't I get it from my diet? He just looks right at them and says, because you don't. You just don't. And so how do we motivate people? You know, anything you get out of the mini mart is not food. You know, people are always eating on the go and eating on the fly. And then with COVID, everybody's staying home and stress baking. And now you see people are gaining more weight. Like, we need that in this country, you know? But this way I can talk to people and motivate them and say, hey, let's test you. Let's see how you've been doing. And you might have a little extra time at home. We can't eat out right now. Well, let's try out some good recipes at home. And that's what I've been doing. And, you know, everybody else has gained weight. I've lost weight because I'm not eating any, you know, extra stuff outside the house.
You know, you said something professionally obligated. So this is something that I think all healthcare professionals should have that mentality, which they do. They're professionally obligated to recommend what they know. But I think it's up to us also to show them what they don't know. And the scanner is one of those ways which we can prove and show them that, you know, even though they're specialists in a particular field, they may not know about nutrition. A cardiologist that knows, they've never studied it. So this is a whole wide open area. It's all virgin. The doctors know squat about nutrition, generally speaking, which
Yep.
it's an aberration. That's ridiculous. So the scanner is one of those tools which is backed by the scientists, which give us the passport to the future, which is science, technology, innovation. But the information there, which we can test and measure and prove, makes it really exciting, makes it something which, as you said, once you know these things as a professional, you're professionally obligated, once you know what you say, to explain this. And you mentioned Dr. Rosenberg. I just want to mention this. He actually said one time that I remember a long time ago, he said, it's my duty to recommend these things that I know. It's his duty. So, you know, we've got something that's very powerful. We've got to learn how to use it.
Right. Knowing that this scanner exists gives me an obligation. And I would hope more physicians would feel that way, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We have these great leaders and reps that are just willing to pound the pavement and knock on doors and meet new providers and ask them those few simple questions. You know, is nutrition personally important to you? Do you take supplements? And would you recommend supplements to your patients? And if they answer yes to those questions, full steam ahead. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
So you see, Andrea, this Friday chat is usually about mindset. And I just wanted to reiterate what I always say, that it's about mindset, and you have the mindset of absolute conviction of what you're talking about, because you've now reached the point, you've studied it, you've lived it, you walk your talk. And by having that positive mindset, you're able to influence a lot of people in a very, very positive way. And then if you take what your mindset is, your positivity, your knowledge, and then you add it to what the company offers with the know-how, and we then have the know-who, that's it. The circle is complete.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And all this leadership, I mean, this is free. Monday morning, I get to hear from John Whitaker. Wednesday, Kent and Wendy have been killing it for years. And on Friday, Lawrence, you have stepped up in wonderful ways. And it warms my heart to see everybody on the calls.
So I have one last question, because we're out of time. And that is, what is your passion?
My passion is to inspire people to stay healthy and live long, healthy lives, or to die young at a very old age, as Mark Bartlett likes to say. And that's my passion. We all can do this. We all don't have to be on medication the last 30 years of our lives. We all don't have to stop playing. You know, I still run, I still ski, I swim, I mountain bike. I can do those things. And we all should be able to, or whatever we like to do.
Agreed. Any parting shots you want to leave everybody? Andrea, everybody was really excited about you being on the call.
Well, I'm excited to be here too. And I hope that I gave you guys a few little talking points that might be helpful and inspiration to have the long-term vision of this game. You know, I did work really hard at the beginning. I'm not working super hard now, other than just doing the right thing in my practice. And, you know, it's been wonderful. And my life has changed forever. And I'm very appreciative of everyone I've met along the way.
Andrew, thank you so much. You rock. We love you. Keep up the good work. Thanks everybody for being on the call. Thank you. Have a really good rest of July. And remember the dash, the 2 dates. So fill up that dash, make it a long dash with very complete and full and fruitful.